Super. It's so nice to see you again.
You too. How is LA? Is it LA? You're in LA?
I'm in Northern California, but yeah,
Uh,
same time zone.
how's
Yeah,
Northern California?
it's beautiful, warm, kind of perfect. Yeah, it's hard. It's really nice up
Not
here right now.
not sweaty, scorching, blistering New York City.
No, or like kind of what feels like the rest of the US has been like. It's
Yeah,
just very,
yeah, it's
very
been
warm this summer.
incredibly.
Um, I'm really excited to talk about the history of sound. I saw the film at Cannes and absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
I might have been predestined to with everybody that's involved with this because
The actors. Yeah,
everybody, you, Josh, Paul, everybody is just really at the top of their game right now.
thank you.
Um, and I know this film was in development and has been part of your life for 5 years. You've made a feature film and a limited series since then.
Yeah, it was for all of us. It's quite funny because Paul and I met uh, in the first week of lockdown. I remember he living. I don't think normal people. I can't remember if it had come out or I was sent it like one episode before. But I was meeting him for living, and then I met Josh a week later. And then, unbeknownst to me, Paul also met Josh in another like Zoom. They were put together by their agents. They have the same agents, and so we all met at the same time, and all kind of around doing things together. Uh, and then like their lives changed completely. So it's been an interesting 5 years.
Oh, for sure. In thinking about Ben Shattuck's short story, what were you most drawn to in his writing that made you say, "I have to make this"?
I was coming out of the movie I just made, which was just incredibly aggressive and violent and dark. And read this and thought this was such a great change of pace, gear, tone, but also just thought it was very beautiful and very wise. And there was something incredibly romantic but melancholic and beautiful about it. And I could see a movie, it sort of appealed to my interest in the landscape of America and period. And at the time that I read it, I was about to make Living, but I hadn't made Living, so it was also I was sort of still deciding if I wanted to work outside of South Africa. I was still living in South Africa, so I was a different person.
For sure. I was just going to ask, what is different about you as a director in 2020 versus 2024? What have you've had huge
Oh
projects
God,
since then?
it was just a busy time. It was busy time of developing this movie and Living and making Living, promoting Living, and then going straight into a TV show. And I think I finished the TV show like the third week of October and moved to New York days later to start this. So
Wow.
it's just been nonstop. It was nonstop until I finished History of Sound. So it felt like
Yeah.
finishing History of Sound was like finishing all of my homework from 2020.
It does. It's like one 5 year project.
Because I'd agreed to all these projects in 2020. So
Exactly.
it's like only now the thing I'm doing next will be the first film that does not exist in 2020.
Yet you managed to keep Paul and Josh attached during this whole period, which is kind of amazing.
I mean, it wasn't a magic trick or anything like that. I think that they always loved it. They respond to material. They have great taste, and they knew this was great material. And for me, the only thing was not so much keeping either of them interested in making the movie. It was me saying to other people that I wasn't going to make it without them, because you get the thing of Paul was going to do Gladiator, Josh was going to do Challenges, and you can have producers saying, well, they're not available anymore, but why don't you've still got this great screenplay, so why don't you make it now? And I'd be like, well, no, I'd rather wait for both of them to be available. So it was more that than, convincing them to stick around.
Good. Um, with Ben Shattuck being also the writer of the screenplay, did he have ideas for a longer version of the story in place already? How did you collaborate there?
No, he was very open to me asking the questions. I think like that was a really great experience. It was lockdown. So I was asking him, where we pull things in, and I was curious about the interracial factor of it, like where the immigrants, where the black people, these black communities that would be,
Yes.
and he immediately had historical ideas that fit into that. And History of Sound was an incredible writing experience because we started somewhere around Easter during lockdown, and it was in front of agents by Thanksgiving. So it
Wow.
was, he wrote two drafts very succinctly, and he never changed. He never had to change it. It was kind of this perfect born screenplay where the writer is so connected to the material because it's so much inside of him that he just printed out. And I just merely kind of posed the direction.
Yeah. So the first time we see Paul and Josh's characters, Lionel and David, go home together, they're they're flirting and they kind of know what might happen, and then David spits water in Lionel's mouth. I found that moment to be so funny and spontaneous and also completely erotic. Can you talk a little bit about how you wanted to approach the sex and the sexuality and what you wanted for the audience to see and know?
I love that moment in the short story. It's there in the short story, and I thought it was
Yeah.
such a captivating visual like scene, and so it was very important to do that justice in the movie. And yeah, there's a sort of like enigmatic quality to it. It's kind of unexpected. It's playful, and the short story has the same jump where you have this moment of intimacy with the water and then being led into the bedroom, and then you sort of he's alone again, and he's in David's apartment. That was really important for me because I liked it's not that History of Sound is the kind of movie that's avoiding the blue is the warmest color um, sex scene. It's just not about that. And I've made movies. I mean, Mary and George, I was shooting an orgy every second day. So
Exactly.
it's an active choice of this movie and it's also this movie is a memory. I think that's the other thing that sort of people have to come around to, like it's being told to you by Lionel. So he's remembering things in particular ways. So for him, the big memory is the morning he spends alone in David's apartment, and
Yeah.
uh, and how he gets to sort of come inside of David's world and feel the things in his life and live in it. So that I love that idea of that kind of intimacy. So I can see the Brokeback Mountain poster behind you. Um,
Yes.
but and I know Paul addressed it in Cannes, but
Yes.
it seems like we're sort of living in the shadow of something or compared to something. But honestly, for me, this is just not about the same thing. This is about so much, that those characters are dealing with their identity and their repression and the fear and the shame of their relationship and the impossibility of that relationship. And the impossibility of this relationship in this movie is not concerned with the same constraints as that one. This one is about the
Yes.
fact that these two people can't think that they will meet other people and that they're young and that this is nice, but there might be more. And then as in life, you come back to these moments and you go like, oh, maybe that was it there back there. And that I think is a very romantic and somewhat melancholic idea.
Absolutely, because like you said, the whole thing is really told from the perspective of memory, uh,
Yeah.
and especially as we get to the end. Can you talk a little bit about working with Paul and Josh on the songs, live singing, specific like tones and pitches, and what voices sounded like 100 years ago?
I mean, again, it was really helpful to just, the sort of collaborative nature of the history of sound has been really refreshing for me, particularly with Paul, because we sort of developed a relationship where I really kind of let him into quite a lot of my thinking about many things, which is not to say that I haven't with actors in the past, but I think we both became very focused on getting this right. And so when we had to choose somebody to help us with the music, we both latched on to the idea of Sam Amadon, and then we sort of cross-referenced that with Oliver Coates and with Ben Shattuck. And so every addition of a collaborator was very much somebody who we felt would fall as in love, who has as much passion for this music. And Sam taught them. He was brilliant. He taught them these songs. He taught them how to sing. He taught them the nature of the way people sang, and the sort of accenting of it, and the nature of the voice. And actors love this. They love going to boot camp. They love being told the impossibility of something and then having
Yeah.
to succeed. And it was very funny because they came into a recording studio in New York before we shot the movie, and they spent a day, and Josh looked very pale. He was very nervous about singing, but you know, as is always with Josh O'Connor, he likes to make you believe that he likes you to be underestimated, because then he knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, completely. Um, I could probably talk about Silver Dagger forever. I think it is such a
So yeah.
beautiful song.
And that was,
Is
that was always there.
yeah,
That was always one that we felt sort of like there's a there's an idea around the history of sound where the movie itself is like a ballad, because it's a narrative of a love story that's kind of unfortunate in some way.
yeah,
And Silver Dagger is a very good example of that as a narrative. But then so is Across the Rocky Mountain, and I think that's what I love about this kind of music, is that these are stories, and they're parables in some way, they're fables, they're cautionary, they can be murder ballads. Um, but you
yeah.
have to listen to them because the words and the stories are important to the song.
Yeah. Um, and actually, Lionel and David collecting and preserving songs, each song, like you say, has its own story and has its own motif. For you, is film a way of preserving history?
Um, I think I probably think about cinema um, more as an agent of social change, perhaps. It's there's still, whether it's a political change or an emotional, cultural change. I think what I like about going back and watching a movie from a long time ago is that you sort of have you can learn about life in some way. You can learn about the nature of life and the nature of. I think I grew up learning from movies the idea of big ideas: betrayal, desire, lust, or longing, love, heartbreak. Um, but also, honesty, morality, certain kind of morals, the work of Michael Haneke, which is darkly challenging your question of morality. I think that's what I think cinema can do. It's a way of preserving ideas and inspirations and questions about life.
Yeah. In thinking about Lionel, since we see him from 1917 to 1924, and then the jump to 1980, uh, in your mind, did you fill in the gap of that period when it came to uh,
His life.
casting Chris Cooper?
Oh, you mean in terms of the choice to cast Chris Cooper?
Yeah.
Well, I kept thinking about this voice that you would hear, and it was Chris Cooper's voice. And so, and the only thing I knew about Chris Cooper, which I greatly admire, is that he does not speak to directors unless he's going to do the movie. Because usually you go like, can I meet the actor? Can I talk to the actor? I'll send them the screenplay. We can get to know,
Hmm.
I can pitch them my vision. And Chris Cooper does not operate that way. Chris Cooper will only speak to you if he's already in. And I think that's really great, but also very nerve-wracking, because if he's in, then you just hope that he's gonna like your ideas. But and I think that again there was another perfect example of somebody coming into the film and responding to what we were all responding to and what we were very precious about and wanting to be part of that. And I think that's the best way to make movies, is to make them with your friends and to make them with people who you admire and who are there for the right reasons and who are all trying to make something that feels very important to them and that they want to be in the world and they want it to be out there. And I've never had an experience of making something that felt like it was Teflon or that it was going to be like disposed of tomorrow. I've not had that kind of career. So it's very reassuring to me to work with people like Paul Mescal, Josh O'Connor, Chris Cooper in the United States, and to know that it is possible to still make the movies with that ethos with people of that caliber.
Absolutely. Oliver, thank you so much for talking with me today and for such a beautiful film.
Thank you for taking the
So
time.